Once you eliminate those toxic relationships, not only do you create space and time and energy for bringing in better ones, but you also attract the better agents more easily because you're in a different state of mind. You're on a different frequency. You have a different vibration, and people feel that.
Welcome back to Good Better Broker as we bring in Tammy Saul. She is the broker owner and founder of Federal Hill Mortgage, and she is based in Baltimore, Maryland. Tammy, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So a bit about you, Tammy. You have been a broker since 2006. You've been a top producer nationally since 2016. And last year, you were ranked 10th in Scotsman Guide, doing over $200 million in loan volume. And as you were just telling me off camera, you're on pace to exceed $250 million in 2025. So congratulations on all your success. And I want to start the conversation by asking you about who you surround yourself with and who you choose to work with and who you choose not to work with. Because you truly believe that every LO out there needs to ask themselves that question. Who do you want to work with? Why do you feel that way, Tammy?
Well, I feel that way, Justin, because for many years I struggled with working with the wrong people. And it held me back in terms of business. It held me back in terms of production. And so when I speak about working with the right people, I'm not just talking about the obvious, which are real estate agents. I'm talking about clients. I'm talking about team members. I'm talking about employees. And it's really true that when you surround yourself with the right people, you're able to shine and grow and do more production. And life is short.
You were telling me that earlier in your career, you would jump on every single deal without hesitation. But over time, you found that wasn't necessarily the best way of going about it. Why?
Well, it's because those people were toxic, and I held on to them because I was only closing 3, 4, 5, 6 deals a month, and I couldn't lose that, and I was afraid. And so I was acting out of fear of loss. And acting out of fear, first of all, isn't a great existence, and it doesn't result in the production that I have now. And so I got to a point, and it didn't happen overnight, it didn't happen right away, but it was a slow progression of letting go of the people in my life. Some real estate agents, not all, there are many amazing ones, and those are the ones I work with. Real estate agents, clients, people that worked for me. And it was a slow progression, and I took one little jump and I realized, and that one little jump was getting rid of an agent or getting rid of a client or getting rid of an employee. And I realized when that happened, it created so much more bandwidth for me to go after better people. And then once you do it one time, you rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. So that would be my message to loan officers, is that it doesn't have to happen all at once. It's scary. You think about, oh my gosh, do I have to fire all of my agents? No. Think about the one that is the most toxic to you. Take the leap. You don't have to necessarily fire them. You can have a conversation with them and say, listen, we've been working together for this many years, and I really appreciate and admire you for this, that, and the other. I'm sure there's something you like about them, but here is something that I can't work with, at least not at this point in my career. And I just want to have an open discussion with you and see if it's something that we can adjust. And then let them make the decision, right? So you do that once, and as long as you do it properly, and it creates space in your life. Again, it doesn't have to be a real estate agent. It could be anybody. It creates space. And then you have to have the discipline to fill that space, not with propping your feet up, going to the Bahamas and eating bonbons, but going out there and finding new and better relationships. And they are out there. They are out there.
To contextualize this just a little bit, Tammy, you were telling me that, earlier in your career, you would maybe have somebody who you would be doing business with, and maybe the business relationship was good, but they would treat you poorly, and that would just tear you up inside. I mean, what was the impact of that on you? How did you handle that?
It took a great deal of self-discipline. It took a great deal of control, but it also created a great deal of pressure on my mind, my body, psychologically in every way. And I know loan officers know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm somebody who overcomes. I'm a first generation immigrant. I overcome, I survive, I will make it happen. I'll get through whatever I have to get through. And that's what I was doing for the sake of building my business. But it takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your mind. And it's not the way you want to live. So I think for me, it was a progression. Also having children. I have two in the last 9 years. I had two children late in life. And realizing what my values were and what was important to me. And as a result, now my quality of life is much better than it used to be. I work with the people that I want to work with. I invest my time in the people that deserve it and are worthy of it, and closing a lot more loans.
So it all worked out for you. And let's talk a little bit more about your relationships with your agents. And I think we need to throw this out there. You have over 100 agents that refer you business. You bring in 250 plus referrals a month. So clearly what you're doing is working. And one of the approaches that you use is treating the agent like the client. Tell us how that works.
So I will say first that where that comes from is, as you know, but the audience is about to find out, I did practice law for a couple of years before I went into the mortgage industry. I still keep my license active. And one of the great lessons I learned from working at the big law firm is how you treat a client. The professionalism, the respect, and everything that goes along with being a professional. And so in a purchase transaction, the real estate agent is your client and the client is your client. So you really have two clients. It's more work. But the real estate agent, this is their livelihood. And we have to realize that we may be closing, I mean, for me the number is high, but most loan officers, 5, 10, 15, 20 transactions a month. They're closing maybe one or two. So that one transaction is their income for the entire month. And we have to be very much in tune with that and nurture them and give them what they want. But it's the same dynamic as working with the client. Because with the client, what is it? We're serving them, we're giving them a service, but we're also listening to them very carefully. What is their pain point? What do they really want? And we have to do the same thing with the agent.
You brought it up, so I have to ask you about the way that you love to make a loan work. You love to take all the pieces to the puzzle and make them fit together. How much of your experience as an attorney plays into that?
Oh, a great deal. Because what being an attorney has trained me to do, it's not about knowing the law. A lot of people think that, oh, the attorneys know the law. You can learn the law. You can go to ChatGPT. You can take a course. You can do many things to know the law. But it's the way that you think, bottom line oriented, analytical, taking things apart, making, like an engineer does, making something that may seem very complex, very simple. And I speak with clients all the time, and they say, wow, that's a lot more simple than I thought. The loan officer I spoke to last week, I was very confused, and they said this, that, and the other. And so education's important. It's not just an attorney, any kind of education. Who you were before you went into the mortgage industry is who you are in the mortgage industry.
It's a great point. And you know, the way that you do one thing, as a lot of people say, is the way that you do everything. And it was interesting listening to you talk about, you know, sitting down with a client, whether you're an attorney or a mortgage loan originator. You have to understand what's going on with the client, right, to really help them. And you are really big on understanding and identifying the pain points of a real estate agent. What are some of the most common ones you've come across?
Well, the obvious one is if buyer's agents have difficulty getting offers accepted, right? It's a competitive market, more so in some areas than others. And so, for me at least, I'm not just the one doing the loan. I can do the loan, analyze the loan, pick it apart, figure out the best way to help the client in my sleep. But it's about taking that extra step. You know, Darren Hardy said, it's that extra effort after you have done your best that's the difference maker, right? It's that extra thing that you do. And so I'm very much in tune with the struggles of the realtor, and I truly want to help them get an offer accepted. So just this morning, an agent couldn't even reach the listing agent to respond to a counteroffer. Couldn't even reach him. The listing agent wasn't even responding to her. For 3 days straight, I called and I called and I called. He wasn't responding to me either. I sent him a text. I sent him an email. Wasn't responding to me. Finally, he calls me out of the blue. He hasn't even spoken with her. And I pick up the phone right away, even though I was mid-meeting. And I said, I will call you right back. Then I go to the other room. I call the agent. and the buyer's agent, and I say, he just called me. She couldn't believe it. I said, I'm going to call him back. You keep yourself on mute, and I will ask him the questions that we need answers to so that you can hear me and you can hear his answers. And then I helped move that along to where this will probably be under contract tonight. By doing that, I feel like we're a team. I'm helping you where you need help. If there's something that I can do and the agent's not calling you back, I'm going to jump in there. But it also was an opportunity for me to showcase my talent and my ability to influence and convince a listing agent to the buyer's agent. So I guarantee you, this is my first deal with this woman. I've got all her business for the rest of however long. I already know I've earned it. And I know she's going to send me her business.
And I'm sure she is extremely grateful for you just
Right.
being able to get him on the phone. She must have felt like she was banging her head against the wall trying to get answers to this situation.
She was very grateful, right?
So, Tammy, tell me, we were talking a little bit earlier about, telling certain agents in certain situations, I don't think it's a good fit. And that's much easier said than done, especially, when you are a high producer like yourself. But how did you get to that point where you did feel comfortable saying, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out between us?
Well, first of all, what I did is I started looking for those better relationships while I was still holding on to the toxic ones. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of effort. Didn't sleep very much. But I essentially replaced those relationships first with better relationships. And then I slowly backed out of the toxic ones. And what happened was even greater than I expected. Once you eliminate those toxic relationships, not only do you create space and time and energy for bringing in better ones, but you also attract the better agents more easily because you're in a different state of mind. You're on a different frequency. You have a different vibration. And people feel that. People really feel that. People know, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to treat you well. I'm going to be respectful, professional. I'm going to respond to you. I'm going to do the best job any loan officer can do on your loan. But if you disrespect me, I'm out. And it only takes once for me.
It's almost like you were manifesting those better relationships.
That's the better word.
And you had an exit strategy. Like you said, you weren't necessarily shoving them to the side while you didn't have anybody else, but you were putting up with it while you could, and then you made the transition. I think that's super smart and a great point for our audience to hopefully adapt to their business. All right, let's talk a little bit about your relationships with your realtor partners. How do you go about cultivating them? And this ties to the phone calls that you make, because I already mentioned how many agents you work with. You can't call them all, Tammy. So how do you do it? How do you manage it all?
That's a question, Justin, that I don't even have 100% answer to, because I wonder myself, how is it that they keep coming back to me and wanting to use us, even though I'm not constantly touching them like I should? And I think it's multifaceted. One facet is that, frankly, I do such a kick-ass job when I do work with them, and I provide influence, and I provide such a value add that they remember it and they continue using me despite the fact that I'm not reaching out as much as I should. But secondly, we do email marketing. We send out RESPA compliant gifts to our agents. I love doing that. And then we send it out in a way, it's not like I'm giving you a gift, you need to give me a deal. It's a thank you for working with me. I really want to give this to you. So it's coming from a different kind of spirit. And then I do have an in-house marketing business development person who, when she has time, she does call my agents, and I give her a script, and then she says, "Hi, this is Ashley from Tammy Saul's office." It's all about the scripting. Tammy asked me to call you to touch base to let you know that there is this new guideline change. I don't know if you got the email, or we bring some kind of value, not, hey, checking in, because they know as soon as they get that phone call, they know you're calling for more business. No, I'm just calling to give you this nugget. I'm giving you this piece of advice, or can you give me your address? So, because we're sending out our holiday gifts. And then by the end of the call, I have this client I want to send you. So you don't have to ask. They'll send you the client. They know what you do. Maybe other people don't, but the real estate agents know you're a lender. and they know that you want their business. And I don't want to be like every other loan officer calling and asking them to go out to lunch and to learn about how they're a high producer. Come on, well, they can see right through that.
I'm glad you brought up the
Yeah.
way that you coach your director of business development, your marketing person who also does business dev, about making calls, because it's basically the same approach that you take, right? When you get on the phone with a real estate agent, you're going to call them and ask them how they're doing, but then you're going to say something to the effect of, hey, did you see what I sent you? Providing them that piece of value. That's such a big piece of cultivating those real estate relationships. For you, do you always have that in mind before you get on the phone? Like how you're going to provide them with that piece of value?
I do. I do. And there's always value to provide. And we truly enjoy providing value. We truly do. And they can feel that too. They can feel that the phone call isn't a, hey, I'm pretending like I have some value, so give me some business, right? Because I'm very much in tune with what other loan officers are doing, and then I do what they're not doing. I know what they're doing. They're calling and they're reading from a script, and I know that's what they're doing, because then that same agent, that I talked to that same agent 2 days later, oh, thank God, I got 5 calls from loan officers saying exactly the same thing, and I'm really annoyed. And you have to, they're your partners, they're your friends. You want to take care of them, they take care of you.
One thing you don't do, Tammy, is you don't call agents who you have transactions with that are active. Why is that the case?
So it's not that I'm opposed to it, but my calls to agents are business development calls. And every transaction and process is already being handled by one of my loan partners or LOAs. And so I don't want to call them while a transaction is in process, because first of all, they think we're calling about that transaction. Then the entire phone call becomes questions about that transaction. And that's not helpful for me or for them, because I'm not as close to the file as the loan partner is to answer those questions. Or if I'd like to call an agent with a transaction in process, I'll say to my loan partner, Russell, can you just call this agent and give them a complete rundown of the entire file, everything that's happened? Don't leave one stone unturned, and let me know when it's done. And let me know if it was a good call, or if they're expecting something more. And if he tells me it was a good call, they're complete, they're happy, they don't have any other questions, then I call. Because I don't want the call to be about that.
Not to make you feel nostalgic, but as I was just looking at my notes here, I realized that we're coming up on your 20th anniversary, 20
Yep.
years as a mortgage broker. And I don't know if that gives you pause or makes you want to reflect, but the one thing I do want to ask you about is just how some of the other experiences you've had in life, and you mentioned, being from Ukraine and first generation, and how some of these things have shaped you. There's something else that you recently went through, and I want you to tell our audience about this and how it kind of helps lend to the perspective you have about the people who you surround yourself with.
Last year, in 2024, June or July, I received a shocking diagnosis that I had lymphoma, which is a blood cancer. Nobody in my family has it. It was a shock. And I went through, over the next 6 to 7 months, I went through over 40 rounds of chemo, full body radiation. I had a bone marrow transplant in December of 2024, and it was a lot to deal with. But I had the experience that I think many people do when they're faced with a potentially life-threatening condition, is that you start to look at life differently. How do I want to live if I only have 2 years left? Now, thankfully, I don't have that. I got through it. I'm cancer-free, thank God. But I didn't know that I would get through it until I actually got through it. And so I started evaluating much more intensely, who are the people I really want to be around, talk to, surround myself with. And so I think one way that we can look at it as loan officers is we can say, okay, if I only had 5 years left to live and I knew it, who would I want to surround myself with? And it wouldn't be toxic people. It wouldn't be toxic people. I'd rather have nothing than have a toxic person in my life.
It's great perspective, and we're so glad that you're past that, and that you are now back to, as you said, doing a kick-ass job for your referral partners and for your clients. It was great getting to sit down with you. I think that our audience will take a lot from this. So we appreciate you being here. Tammy Saul with Federal Hill Mortgage. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Justin.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified about new videos, as well as your preferred podcast platform for a new episode every other Tuesday.